Well, welcome. I'm here with Jonathan Gregg, who is somebody that I became exposed to on Instagram. Honestly, I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok, and so I don't really encounter anybody there unless my daughter-in-law sends me TikToks all the time. That's kind of my big exposure to TikTok. But I saw a video of you talking about, I think it was talking about parenting at the time. And I didn't really know much about you. Looking around a little bit, like who is this guy and why is he on my screen? And I'm kind of a fan of Dylan Michael White, who talks a lot about parenting as well as a lot of other things. And so I thought, well, okay, well, I'll follow this guy. And to my shock, you followed me back at some point, and I don't even know how that happened or why. I never know exactly why people follow me back because my Instagram is not that interesting most of the time. But anyway, so welcome. You're in Brooklyn, yeah?
Queens. How
Queen.
dare you? How dare you? Queens.
Sorry.
No, I mean, to the rest of the world, it's basically the same place. I know we share a border, and we're both just outside of Manhattan. But to a bourbonite, it's definitely Queens and not Brooklyn. I'm actually like 18 feet from Brooklyn, but we get very particular about our boroughs. But the greater New York area, yeah, of the five boroughs.
I my family and I spent about almost a month in New York City last summer, not this
Wow.
past summer, but the summer before, which was a really interesting experience. Like you don't really understand any of the dynamics of New York unless you like stay more than 4 or 5 days.
It's true. Yeah, it's there's a difference between, it's kind of like the Olympic sports. I mean, it really is the difference in a sprint and a marathon. If you come for a weekend, you have to gear up for it for sure. I mean, I tell my friends and family, you gotta limber up and exercise before you come to New York because it's exhausting and there's so much walking.
Yeah.
But then if you stick around for even a couple of weeks or more, it's a different game at that point. You really got to learn to strategize the city and how the whole thing works, and not just the couple of spots you want to hit. You got to learn how to really survive the long run.
Yeah. We were staying near the park, like Hell's Kitchen, which I expected to be, like Daredevil, which it's not. That's not the place anymore. Um, but we were there for the first week, and then we moved to Harlem for 10 days. My family from my son and his family from Canada came down and stayed with us, and so we have how old were they at the time? 9 and 7. Yeah,
Oh, nice. Okay.
your old grandsons. And that was definitely an experience too. It was it was an Airbnb, very gentrified, but Harlem is still Harlem, right? And we were not like blocks from the park or anything. We were quite a ways into Harlem, which was it was a good cultural experience kind of for everybody.
Yeah, that
And
Harlem is funny. It's like really, I mean, all of New York. It's the like the gentrification meeting the culture meeting the some. There are definitely parts of New York. You look at Hell's Kitchen, in fact, over the years, and like in the past 30 years, getting cleaned up is useful. There's some things that could be made better for sure, and then also there's then there's undeniably rich people getting richer by buying up property and raising the rent, and all of that is true. So it's kind of, I don't know, that's one of the things I enjoy about it, is all of those things stay true in New York. There's some gritty, grimy places, there's a lot of deep culture and heart, and then there's some money to be made, like to the rich can keep getting richer in some spots, and so you got to fight back against that as much as you can, and try to keep the heart of New York, and try not to get run over by anyone, and try not to run over anyone. And it's just kind of a lot going on all the time.
yeah, yeah. But you're not originally from New York, right?
No, I've been here 20 years now. 20 years. I just passed my 20 years, but I grew up in North Alabama. So pretty much the same kind of.
Very, very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just little accents are a little different. Actually, that's kind of a point. I have a sort of pet theory about that because I grew up. My parents were born in Oklahoma, but I was born in California, and they never entirely lost their accents. And strangely enough, my sister, who is considerably younger, she's like almost 8 years younger than me, she picked it up. I do not have it. I never had it really, and like I sort of had an intention to not have it, but
Yeah.
but so the other person that follow from from Alabama on Instagram is Adam Berry, and he's got like
Yeah.
the thickest accent. Did you ever have it? Did you
That's a
train
good
yourself out
question.
of it?
I think that so one of the things, the main thing that brought me to New York 20 years ago was performance, was the dream of being an actor. And I think that growing up as a kid, like, I was doing community theater from a very young age, and you just can't, no matter where you are, you can't really do Charles Dickens with a Southern accent. So it kind of just like worked its way out when I was a kid, just by doing theater. And then I kind of like, I, I, I think that I have, from the acting side, and just, I don't know, there's a kind of an innate adaptability I've realized about myself when it comes to things like vocal, it's, and psychologically you get into down the road, you learn like, oh, maybe I'm mirroring to make people feel more comfortable or whatever. It kind of wasn't on purpose at the time, but like the accent was one of the things that just naturally adjusted to where I was. So when I'm home, even now still, it comes out a little bit more. But I really like kind of there used to be a thing. This is a true thing that would happen in New York on St. Patrick's Day. Like I would be out and I would not be trying to do anything. I would not be trying to put on an affectation or anything. But eventually, some Irishman would start asking me what county I was from, and I'd be like, "Oh, Madison." And he's like, "What? What?" He means like from Ireland. Like they thought I was a natural born Irishman, and I'm like, "Oh no, I guess I just am talking like you now because we're drinking and I'm in a bar with everyone." Like I don't know. It was like a kind of a natural thing that happened. So I've been asked a lot about my accent and what happened to it, and I think that it's just I carry mostly, I think, a pretty neutral accent. I know everyone kind of says that. Everyone kind of says like I don't have an accent, and that's just hardly true for most people, But like when you hear my dad sounds a lot like Adam Berry. My dad is a Southerner, and my mom has a pretty thick Southern accent too. And my brother is in Kansas City. He has a pretty solid accent that you can hear. And when I'm with them, it comes back out. And when I'm in New York, my wife is from Connecticut, kind of a neutral, if anything, a northeastern accent there maybe comes out a little bit. It's just just kind of like match the tone. And I instinctively kind of match the tone and the accent of whatever I'm doing at the time.
I have this theory that it's genetic, that some people develop accents and other people can do any accent.
Yeah.
But their speech is relatively neutral, flat, newscaster kind of voice.
Yeah, what is it? The Mid-Atlantic? That's the made up accent?
Yeah,
That's not actually a region, but that's what they call it. Yeah. The
right.
Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the middle of the water, your voice sounds like you're from nowhere, but you've recently gone through a Shakespeare intensive. So
Right. Yeah.
um, so you said you started acting like very early. Like how early?
Well, I was doing stuff like I remember when I was in preschool, I did a church production of the best Christmas pageant ever, and kind of stuff like that, like at church. But that was like a little taste of being in front of an audience, even little things like the church choir, and we do like the little summer children's musical. And then when I was, well, let's see, I think my big break when I was in kindergarten, I was Owl in our kindergarten production of Winnie the Pooh. And so that
great.
was, yeah, it was a blast.
Eeyore would be like such a downer at that age.
I don't remember who I want to say my friend Lacey Askew was Eeyore. I might be making that up, but I think it was Lacey Askew, and I actually think she was really funny because it was such a downer. It was like a funny way to go about doing it, And I don't know if she was trying to be that funny or if it was just, I don't know, but it was. I remember it being very funny. That was kind of my introduction to what it meant to be like on stage with a script and a director and a blocking, and it was of course kindergarten, so it's barely any of those things, but it was a little taste to a 5-year-old brain. It was a little taste of all those things. And then when I was in the summer before 3rd grade, my mom took us to see a community theater production of Oliver, and I loved it. And then I realized that she explained to me that all of those kids were from town. They were just from here, and they had just auditioned. That this was a very accessible thing to get involved with. And so I said, "Oh, I want to do this. Can I audition first? Can I do this thing?" And she said, "Sure." So that winter, that December, whatever, November, I guess, I auditioned for A Christmas Carol, which was an annual thing in our community theater in our hometown, and I booked it. I booked the smallest role in the show. I was like the little rich boy. There was one rich boy. There was like 8 urchins that ran around throughout the whole show, just being little poor kids. And I was not one of them. I was the one single rich boy who had half as many scenes as the urchins, did very little, but got to experience what that was like to be a part of a full production. And at that point, I was hooked. And so from that point on, I did. I mean, I don't know how many years in a row, 4 or 5 years of Christmas Carol in a row, and then again in high school later, and then during the like in between that, I was auditioning for. It kind of became my, I played some sports. I played baseball and soccer as I could. I was athletic enough to see, to be a boy. But really, my thing became doing the community theater shows, either the musicals or the children's plays or anything I could get my hands on. And so I was always doing community productions. I just found like the whole process was so cool. As a kid, it was so magical to like just go hang out with a bunch of adults in like a kind of grimy community space and like put together this thing, and like it like smells dusty and we're here super late, but we're making a thing that eventually people are going to come see. And right. It was kind of had a really romantic view on it. And so it's really, since then, it just stuck. Even I always thought like, this is a great thing to do. It's a great pastime. It's a great passion. I'll figure out what I want to do with my life later. I'll do something responsible and real when it comes time to get a job. Then I went to a high school that was a magnet school that focused on performance. And then I went to college and ended up getting a degree in musical theater. And so I really just gave myself no other outs. I got, all I could do at that point was move to New York and try to make it. And so then now I've been here for 20 years and I still don't have a Broadway credit, but I have some followers on Instagram and TikTok, and I get to make videos, and that's its own fun thing. I get to be on podcasts, so I love it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, I did some theater in high school. Actually, I was sort of like maybe 12 shows between the two schools that I went to.
Nice,
which is kind of a lot in high
yeah.
school, and it sort of diluted my academic focus because it's a late night rehearsal stuff, and whatever. It's homework or whatever.
I understand why we tell kids, look, school is important, learning is important, learning how to learn is important, but also like learning to be a person is just as important. Finding a thing that you like and learning how to like. Don't fail out of high school. A diploma matters. Being able to learn, being able to finish high school matters. But like, I don't know. I was kind of the same way. My grades didn't drop too bad. I was kind of a nerd, so they were okay. But they definitely took a hit once I got to high school. It was like all performance all the time. My school did it. I was doing community stuff. I was trying to do professional stuff. It was like, and I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm in my mid-40s now, and I think that understanding people and understanding how to navigate situations is as important as biology. Although I will say, I do think that learning how to learn and respecting knowledge is an important thing. We're in a weird time of, I don't ever want to sound like learning isn't important, because I feel like we're in a weird time of anti-knowledge, anti-intellect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
So I want to be on record saying, no, learning's important. School is important. Just
it's kind of a scary time in that way.
Yeah.
Because, where it's kind of in a time that facts don't seem to matter, or the facts are always questioned. And
yeah.
Like, where's the bottom line? Where's the rock solid that you can depend on?
Yeah.
In an environment where
it's very unmooring. It's very tricky. It's very, I don't know. I think that sometime down the road, who knows, but sometime down the road, I think people are going to look at this time and be like, there was psychological trauma happening that no one was even able to clock that much, because there's no constant truth right now. I mean, it feels like there is. It feels like there should be, but we are not agreeing on it. And that feels crazy.
Yeah, no, it's unmooring is a really good way of stating that. Did you ever find that you were like othered by people because your interest was theater?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, big time. And to whatever degree that was other people doing that, and whatever degree that was me feeling that way. But yes, absolutely. I felt most at home in those theater settings and those rehearsal spaces and on stage. And I also grew up in the South in the 80s and 90s, and I wanted to be a boy in the South in the 80s and 90s. Like I said, I played sports. I wasn't great, but I was fine. Like, I was not a consistent all-star in the rec leagues, but I was not embarrassingly bad. But I wanted to do that stuff. And there was a time, I mentioned this on my podcast recently, so sorry to repeat myself if you've heard this before, Jim, but I forget what year I was, 4th or 5th grade, and I was maybe even older than that. I don't remember, whatever. I was going into the summer and I was playing baseball. I had signed up to play baseball in our little rec league. And, I also it turns out I was going to have to quit baseball because I'd signed up for a ballet class because I had done a show that spring, the 12 Dancing Princesses. And I realized like, oh, if I want to keep doing this and I want to grow in the performance world, I need to better my skills. I'm not a dancer at all. And I'm, a little boy and I want to be better at these things. So I'd spent, weeks in this show with these dancers, these grown men and these women that were dancers and other younger men who were dancers. I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is what I want. And then I signed up for this dance class and then was going to have to quit baseball. And the guys at school, like, word got out that I was going to not be playing baseball because I was taking a ballet class. And that was like horrible. That was a miserable place to be for me for a moment. And I frankly just, and this is its own thing that I've carried with me forever. I just lied. And I just told those guys, I said, that's not true at all. I don't know where someone's making that up about me. Someone is lying about me and making that up. Of course I'm playing baseball. I'm not taking a dance class. And I went home and said, Mom, you got to cancel that dance class. I can't do it. So I did not take a dance class and did not start down my journey of becoming a triple threat and showed up to New York as a double threat at best. And here I am. And I'm not playing baseball either. So
the high school I went to was kind of strange in some ways. We actually my class had a sort of informal reunion a few weeks ago, and some of us were talking about the fact that it was this rural farm town kind of school. For grade school, high school, kind of the same thing, a little bit closer to town, but not all that. It was pretty diverse, honestly. Like, we didn't have a lot of black kids. One of the guys who set the thing up was like, yeah, I was the only black kid. So I was like, no, I think there were like 3 or 4 more. It's like, yeah, but other than that, it was pretty diverse and pretty accepting, and we got a really good education for what it was. And I was surprised by that. But in high school, the English teachers decided that they would give extra credit to anybody who would attend a play that was put on at the school or just anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so it created this, like, social tier of theater kids. Like, we weren't the jocks, we were not the student government types or whatever, but like, we were recognizable in that band. And I don't think I really realized that until the class had a 10-year reunion, and there were people talking to me that I had never had a conversation with in high school. Never. No, no connection. Like, we never said hello in the hallways, and having conversations because they remembered me doing, whatever I did.
Yeah. Well, that's because you were you don't know them. You're the star. You're the headliner up there, and they're the ones watching you, right? Like, that's you're not supposed to know them. They're supposed to remember you as what shows did you do? What were they remembering you from?
Probably the biggest one that they would remember was Our Town.
Nice. All right. Yeah.
I was the drunk organist, and and actually we saw Our Town on Broadway last year. Actually, or maybe it's early this year. It was early this year. I sat there the first 2 acts and like knew every line still. It just really weird. And then the third act came up, and there was so little of it that I remember. It's like I was actually like in that act. I was on stage the entire time, and I don't remember any of the lines from it. Well, not most of them. I guess probably the line that I remember the best was, "Do any people ever remember or ever realize life while they're living it?" And the answer is obviously no. We never do. So, and then after high school, it's like you would have to audition if you were going to be involved in a college thing or whatever. And I said, I hated cold reading. I hated auditions. I hated all that stuff. And then a few years ago, like pre-pandemic, I did some improv and really liked that a lot.
Yeah. That's fun, man. I feel like improv is such a good thing. I spent years doing a show here in New York called Batsu, which is like a Who's Line kind of show. It's a short game improv show mixed with a Japanese game show. So it's like, if you're funny, you win points. If you're not funny, horrible things happen to you. So it's a great time for the audience. It's hit or miss as a performer if it's going to be great or awful. But for me, that the reason I love that show one of the reasons I love that show so much is it just kind of heightens the stakes of what people think about with improv anyway, which is like it's it hits so many people get the chance to like really face a fear, which is like, what happens if I make a mistake in front of a lot of people? And it turns out not much. It turns out it's okay. You know, like it's a huge fear, and it's an understandable huge fear. If I make a fool of myself, if I make a mistake, if I look like I don't know what I'm doing, if I do something wrong in front of a whole group of people, what's the worst that's going to happen? Well, for me, it was I might get shot with a paintball gun. But for people just experiencing improv, it's not much. You know, like you end up, you don't get a laugh, or you get a laugh at something you didn't realize was funny, and turns out you're okay. I think people, especially non-performers, just in the world, can take a lot from that. I was in and kind of helped not teach, kind of moderate. I helped out with some improv classes that were targeted for non-performers, and it was really just that. It's like just a way to get more comfortable in the workspace, get more comfortable. If you have to present, if you have to pitch, if you just have to talk to people, like learning how to listen, learning how to agree and heighten, and also learning that like when you mess up, probably not a huge deal. Like that's an okay place to be.
Yeah, I think that with improv and actually in scripted stuff too, my biggest fear is just going up, just not being able to say anything at all. And the nice thing about improv is that if you're with a good group, someone will jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, if you feel like you going up in improv, that just means someone is not doing their job, and it doesn't have to be you. Yeah, somebody's going to come in. Just like ideally, my buddy Chris Alvarado in L.A. and I'm just because I want to name drop him because he's a brilliant improvisation teacher. He always talks about like there's improv for the sake of being funny. There's trying to build jokes. There's trying to make these things up that are funny situations. But really, even the funniest times come from just listening and just responding naturally. Just like, you know, even right now here, I know we're on air and dead air is bad, but like if we don't talk for a second, it's probably okay. We'll figure out what to say next. Like we don't have to figure out what the punchline is. It's just having a conversation. And if it's a kind of a low if the scene ends up being kind of low stakes, that's no problem. Then you work on hiding the stakes. You don't have to worry about like, how do I get a funny punchline in here now? How do I make this work right now? You can probably just like the more fun comes from just like chilling out and seeing what happens.
Yeah, like the UCB philosophy is like, don't try to be funny.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Just try to make a real character that does crazy things.
Yeah. Yeah. And like some of those, like you look at UCB is so funny to me because it clearly it was created by and produced some of the most brilliant comedic minds in our entertainment history. But it also kind of became this like template for everyone. Was like, oh, what you do is you go to UCB, you go through the tracks, you graduate, you get an SNL audition, you know, like you become a writer, you go to the writer's room, there's a track for it. And it's, to me, it's one of the most clear examples of like, it's not the track that gets you there, it's the talent. Those people that were doing that to start with, and the people that built that, and the people that came through there, it wasn't because they did this track, it's because they themselves were brilliant and were interested in creating fully fleshed out characters that then found themselves in whatever wacky situations, not just like, I'm gonna make a fart joke, or I'm gonna like just try to find a way to make a joke at someone's expense. Like, I'm gonna be a fully realized character in what turns out to be an insane situation, which is hilarious.
Yeah. The other thing that I really loved about it was before you walk out on stage, pats everybody else on the back and says, "Gotcha."
Yeah.
And you I'm like, how can you feel in that environment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad that you got that experience, and I'm glad that you felt good about it, because there's so much room there for, you know, whatever. But like, not to sound too cheesy, but they're like for personal growth and for that teamwork kind of mentality and for feeling good about yourself on stage. And, you know, I think as a professional performer, one of the things I had to get over took a couple of layers, and I had to get over the jadedness of being like, man, everyone, including myself, everyone is just here for the next thing. I'm looking for the next bigger gig. I'm using this as a rung on a ladder to get to the next thing. And all of it became more enjoyable when I admitted, maybe I'm not going to be famous, and maybe it's not going to be like a thing I do full time all the time. Maybe I just enjoy it when it happens. Maybe I have fun doing it. And that's been much more enjoyable.
Do you feel like it set you up for the social media
100%.
virality that you experienced?
Yeah. Yeah, I
And how did
think
that
that.
happen exactly? Because I came in later, so I don't. You were already somebody at that point. So
Oh, thanks. I don't know. It's been such a it's been a few years now, but also still so new. Especially like in stages of life, it came late enough that it's still very strange to me. It's very like I don't really always know what to do with it, and I try to mainly have fun with it. And then the world goes on, the world gets set on fire again, and I feel like, well, maybe I have to use my voice for something, and I never, it's always a jumble of what do I do with it. But the way that it started, frankly, in the fall of 22, I guess 3 years ago, I think. Yeah. Um, Acting was really slow. We had come out of COVID. It was the strike, so maybe it was 23, whatever year that was. I don't even remember. The writers and actors strike. We had made it through the summer. We were still striking. I had gotten a job. I hadn't had work. I'd gotten a job with my brother-in-law's company, which I'm still doing, which I love the work. And I was feeling good. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to step back from performing a little bit. Like, I don't need to try to, the audition grind is not fun for me. I've got kids. Like, I'm not making money doing it. It's just a stress. And I'm getting, the getting told no all the time is like not as good on my sense of self as maybe it once was, when I felt like I had thicker skin and could just like grind out auditions all the time and be told no all the time and have it not affect me. And I was like, I just don't, it doesn't feel fun anymore. So I said, like, I fully felt, inside I was like, okay, I'm okay stepping back a little bit. I won't call it a retirement because who cares? I haven't done enough to call it a retirement, but I'm gonna like step back a little bit. And like, I'm not kidding. I felt like at peace with that. I talked to my therapist about it. I was like at peace about it. Also, throughout this time, was trying to make a presence on social media work as an actor. There really is like an expectation of having a following if you're gonna, at a certain level of performance. Like TV gigs I'd go in for, and there were like actual commercials and actual gigs I was in for that you would have to have a base of 100,000 followers to even get in the door, or whatever. So it's like, it became this other thing that was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to figure this out. I guess I'm supposed to try to make a thing work. So I would like, I would post like everyone posts, but I would also post bits and post things that I was trying to, trying to make a thing happen or whatever. And then fast forward back to this point where I've decided I can step back. I'm not going to perform as much. And I put out a reel that honestly, for the first time in months or years, was not for not for an intended larger audience. It was for me and my friends. I thought it was funny. It was about the movies. But I was coming off a weekend where my mother-in-law had texted and called like multiple times to get our Disney Plus password so that our kids could watch like Bluey, I think, because they were with her for the weekend. And so first of all, I mean, thank you, Grandmom, for having the kids, and shout out to Bluey for always being great. But I made a reel that was like, I feel like we're raising a generation of soft grandparents, because like when I was a kid, if I wanted to watch TV at my grandmother's house, I had two choices. Well, the choices was I could lay in bed with her and watch Matlock or Murder, She Wrote on TV with her. Or if I wanted to watch a movie, there were two VHS tapes. There was Dances with Wolves and Fried Green Tomatoes. And like, and that's which basically what those all have in common is murder. Like as a small child, it was just so I kind of put that reel out there, and it was funny enough. I liked it, and I was like, sure, this is funny, and also did not feel like it was for a large audience. It was for hopefully some people see it and laugh, and hopefully my brother and sisters who know that that's true like laugh at it. And I went to bed and woke up, and like Kristen Bell had liked it, and someone else famous had shared it, and I had gained 10,000 followers overnight, and I was like, oh shit, what? And then all of that I don't know. There's you could look at it from positive, healthy sides about like I got motivated. You could also look at it from more self-aware sides that say I got a little taste of that external validation again and went, ooh yeah, I forgot how good that tastes. Let's get some more. And so I just started posting, and it kind of like, in the way that momentum works, and then like the social media algorithms, like work begets work more so in that than anything else, I feel like, because it really is like, if you feed the algorithm, it will give you more. And so I was, I had a bunch of bits. I did some stand up at the time, and so I had like funny kind of stuff that I thought was kind of funny, and it had never been seen by a large audience. So I started putting out more videos, just put them out, and then got some more followers. And to be honest, it was fun, and I wasn't really sure what to do with it. I got some like, little like clothing sponsorships and some brand ambassadorships that I enjoyed and stuff. And that was cool. It wasn't like I was making a lot of money or anything, but I got some free stuff and made a little cash and got to put videos out there. And I got to feel validated for the things that I thought was funny and the perspective that I saw. Um, and then, to be totally honest, then the election happened, and I was kind of heartbroken by the society as a whole with the way that this past presidential election went. And I made some very honest videos about that, and it then shot up again. And so then I kind of like, yeah, I don't know, hit the point where I am now, which I feel like I, it's nice to hear someone talk about it. Like from my perspective, it's like very easy for me to look at it and go, yeah, but 100 whatever it is, 140,000 followers. I think I dropped again, but whatever, 100 something thousand followers is fine. But also, it's not where the big money is. It's not where the stuff happens. Is, that's way higher up. And so for me, it still feels kind of like a lark, an enjoyable lark. It affords me the chance to meet people like you and to do my own podcast and to at least put my thoughts out there. And I kind of feel like, fine, if I'm a middle-aged man ranting into the abyss of social media, at least some people watch mine. I'm not just one of those dudes who have 3 people who ever pay attention. Like, it might be the same. I might be scratching the same itch as every other just dude in his basement ranting into the abyss, but some people pay attention. So I feel like it's to some degree.
I definitely paid attention, and I particularly enjoyed the take about your son wanting to paint his fingernails, and you're like being willing to do that and just like normalize it. It's like, hey, don't worry about it. I don't understand why people still react like that's a weird or bad thing. I don't
Honestly,
understand it all, because
yeah.
I've known people for years and years, more than decades, who did that, and it was not a big deal. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. It's part of my whole thing, and I think that's part of why, to be honest, why I followed you back was I recognized that, hey, you're someone in the industry, that you do production, and you do this kind of side of things too, and you like talking about stuff, and also like being just a dude, being a man who also isn't so fragile that something like a fashion choice someone else makes is gonna set you off. Like, it should not be a big deal. And frankly, I think my Instagram handle might still say it, but my whole brand is kind of like, as I've kind of crafted what kind of voice I want to have. It's weaponizing the mediocrity of men, because if people didn't give a shit, I wouldn't have a platform. If people didn't care that men painted their nails sometimes, I wouldn't have a platform. If people agreed with me that gender norms are a weakness, that gender norms are for the weak, that's kind of like if people agreed, then no one would be surprised that I do the things that I do. The only reason that I'm glad that people agree with my perspective. I think the only reason that it really stands out is because it is unique, but I agree with you. Like, it shouldn't be. It should be easy. If you don't want to paint your nails, don't paint your nails. If you think that someone else painted their nails makes them in some box that you created, you're just wrong. Like, that's just small and weak. And so, like, to some degree, I've joked before too that, like, it sucks. I set myself up in a situation to do better when things are worse, because it's like so surprising to see a guy who, like, we are of a type that people don't really trust a lot these days. We are both of a type and of a look and of a profile demographic that has been making things harder for people for a while, and it's a kind of a bummer to scale, but it's beneficial to me as an individual that people are surprised that I'm not just a jackass.
yeah. Yeah,
I don't even think I'm that. I'm not that smart. I'm not that progressive. I'm not that much of anything. I'm just not so worried about what other people are doing with their bodies and their time.
Yeah. Well, the reason it works is that you're authentic.
Thank you. That's one thing I try very hard to be. I do think that, like, that performance background helps kind of like craft a story. I'm a decent storyteller, and I think I can put together an arc. But the bottom line is, and I think that's also, I will say, I think that's why that first one worked. It probably, you could see consciously or subconsciously with anything I was doing before, like the need to be liked, the need to be wanted, the need to find the thing that worked. And then when it came down to it, it was like and it wasn't like I evolved. I just got beat down so far that I couldn't do anything other than just be myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. You talk a fair amount about, I touched on this before, about parenting. You've got younger kids, yeah, and you're pretty involved in their day to day.
I am, yeah. And that's again kind of part of that is a product of the environment. My wife is, because I was a sometimes in work actor, often out of work actor. My wife has a steady job and makes more money than I do, and has set hours. And so when we started having kids, I was the stay at home parent. And like we bought a house. We bought a house that needed renovation, so kind of learned to renovate a house, and then was the stay-at-home dad.
It's really familiar to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the YouTube reno life it's very real. I think it's respectable, you know.
Man, so much of what I did was like sort of pre-YouTube. Honestly, it was
What
like
did you just take swings at it? Did you just figure it out? Did you get
I
books? What?
got every book and magazine that I could find at Home Depot that was about whatever I was like. So I learned to like set tile and crap, and,
Nice, yeah.
baseboards and crap like that. And then, um, like I had corporate jobs and just like and I worked for a consultancy company for a while, whatever, and that kind of ended in '98. And we bought this house in '99, and I have kind of done everything to this house except for like the big, big construction projects.
Yeah.
So this has been, going on for 26 years now. And someday I'm going to be done. For God. But I mean, it's a house that had good bones, and we're in just a phenomenal neighborhood. And so, like, yeah, I think that, I mean, our investment has been probably quadrupled.
That's great. That's
Which
great.
is great, but like at the same time, like housing prices shouldn't be what they are.
You sure?
We,
Sure.
we sort of screwed down the supply, and it really raised the prices, and suddenly we have homeless everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
again, benefited from it, but I get the issues around it. But there's a lot of sweat equity here. But yeah, just to kind of flesh out the story, like I was in a corporate job, and I was offered a position in LA, but my wife's father was dying of cancer. He had terminal kidney cancer, and I was like, we don't really want to move away from here. That's it's a 6 hour
Yeah.
drive to LA from where I am in Sacramento. And I said, I just can't right now. And they said, okay, well, I'll give you at least a year or so, and you'll be fine. And then, shortly after that, like 3 or 4 months later, that was just like forgotten. And so I started working for that guy in the same company that I used to work for before, and that lasted for a while, and then it ended. And about the same time that it ended, our older son, in retrospect, what it looked like is he had like a viral meningitis, but it created this headache, this chronic daily headache thing that lasted for a good 10 years. And so I couldn't figure out how I was going to go back to work and cover that. And my wife definitely had the ultimately more lucrative job. Like if we moved away, I probably would have had the job that paid more, but we didn't. And so yeah, I ended up being stay-at-home dad in a way. I was like, I did everything I could, but I wasn't good at everything. Like our younger son, I could never do the homework thing with him. He just would not concentrate with me, and needed mom. And so
Yeah. There's some of that and I deal with that too. Like let me ask, I guess one of the things I'm always interested in other dads that are stay-at-home dads, and I guess it doesn't matter, but there is kind of this like it's outside the social norm, right? Like it is more rare to have a stay-at-home dad and have the dad doing more of that stuff. And I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. I babysat when I was a kid. I feel like I've been around kids. I understand kids well enough, but there is still, and I like you said, I make reels about parenting and I talk about it plenty. And I'm proud to be someone who works hard at being a better parent. I also still get it wrong all the time. Like homework is one of those times where it's daily work for me to work on my patience with my kids. My son's in 1st grade, and like just being able to slow down enough and get him to focus and get him to stay with it. And I start getting frustrated, and homework is one of the ways, but there's still plenty of ways that like I get frustrated, the stress comes out, or I pop off and I get louder than I mean to. And I don't know, it's like since you have been through that, and especially like with a son dealing with something like that, but as a dad having to deal with something consistent like that, like what? Yeah, help me. Do you have any advice for for that? For I don't know, just I don't know if it's about how to calm down, how it's or what it's how to relate. I don't know what it is. I am open to any advice that helps me in that more consistent time with my kids.
I think that for me, like at the points that it failed, I failed to get through whatever he was trying to work on. Um, I think I just took it too personally. And I took because I like, okay, so you're at home and so you got the responsibility to get through this. And then if you can't do it, then that's a failure. And so you get like there's a shame component,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
sadness component, there's a failure component to it. And the only ways that I could overcome it successfully was to think about the problem entirely from the other side. How can we make this task be a different thing and still get through it? And my younger son had a sensory processing disorder and has just terrible dysgraphia and was really challenged by motor planning as a kid. So it was all freighted with that stuff too, and figuring out how to move around that. And I think that the biggest thing that we learned about that diagnosis was that you sort of put things in different baskets. So like a safety thing is an A basket issue in dealing with the kid. And then down at the bottom, there's like a C basket of things that that if they don't happen, if you don't convince them to do them, it's like, who cares?
yeah.
And
I
just
like that.
kind of let go of those things as much as possible. And then you
I
probably
like
do
that.
that
Yeah.
instinctively anyway. But
There's some of that, but you're totally right, and the taking it personally thing is hard for me, but like on every level. Like obviously kids are gonna push back. Obviously kids are gonna choose to not listen because they have little tiny smooth brains that forgot of what you said, or they're choosing to try something else. Like those things are all gonna happen, and that's one place where I have a really hard time is I'll get offended. I can feel being personally offended by my kids disobeying me. My kids are 6 and 4.5. Like they're not you could hardly call it disobeying at that point, but it still feels
yeah,
so deep and offensive, and
yeah,
that is certainly a thing I got to get better at for everyone's sake. I just got to chill out for myself, feel not as disrespected and not as challenged and not as poked and threatened, and realize like that's not what's happening here. It's a child, and there's definitely some things that could go on the sea basket and chill out on.
yeah. And I mean, they're trying to figure out how to express themselves, and they don't know like the rules of appropriateness yet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's always so hard for me to think. Like I tell myself that, and then in the moment, it's always hard. Like I accidentally, without if I don't think through it, I meet my kids within the context of an adult situation. They don't have the experience. They don't know if their tone offends me. They've used that tone 3 times in their life. They don't know what tone is. They don't know, like. And even if they do, even if they remember, like, oh, this got a reaction from dad the last time that I used this tone, it's still like it's a tiny brain that's brand new and figuring this stuff out. Like I to treat that with the gravity of like an adult who spoke to me like that, or an adult who blatantly disrespected me or something, is like that's its own thing. I can work on how to not take that personally also, but like that's clearly not what's happening with a small child.
we always kind of talked to our kids like they were adults, but we received them like children, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And again, like that's something I feel like I can easily say and talk about, and then doing it in the moment is a very different thing, but that's a good goal to have.
Our older son has two boys as well, and they are 8 and 10 now.
Okay.
And when we spend time with them, I realized that he has taken our parenting styles. My wife's is not exactly the same as mine. He's taken them, fused them together, and then sort of taken them up a level because his personality, like he doesn't have that investment in ego at all. I mean, he just doesn't. And so he is better with his kids than I was with my kids, and that makes me happy all the time.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal, right? I mean, I feel like, and I feel like there's also a good that is that shows well of you too. That says that you did the right thing, gave them the space to not having that ego is a lack of insecurity, which is a great way to like. I feel like if I could raise a kid, if my kids grow up and as adults they don't have a tight hold on ego and they can be secure in who they are to some degree, I think you get a little bit of credit for that, for putting them in a situation to be able to feel that way. And also my wife and I always say like we just want to we want to mess our kids up differently than we were messed up. Like if you
Yeah,
if you do it the same, then you didn't learn anything, you know, like just you're going to do something's going to go wrong. You're going to there's therapists have jobs for forever. There's always going to be something to talk about, you know, but as long as it's something different, then that means we tried and we at least did something. We fixed the things that we felt. We not even might. We definitely are doing different things that are giving them their own problems. But if it's not the same problems we have, then that's the step that we can feel proud of, I guess.
yeah. The uncontrollable stuff as a parent, like both of my boys have been in therapy as adults, to deal with those things that were kind of out of our hands. You know, I don't think that I haven't heard them blame us for, for anything, which, you know, which just feels, and it feels good. And then it's just situations outside of our control that they need to talk to. I think that's such fair game. And it's also, it's another thing that just shouldn't be freighted at all for men or women or anybody is to go and talk to someone. I mean, I went weekly for probably 3 years and then cut down to monthly. And then my therapist finally said, look, I don't know if we really need to do this anymore because basically we're just talking about our lives. He's about my age. And it's like, you know, I don't think I'm offering you any great insight at this point. I think you pretty much internalized it. It's like, okay, all right, I'll stop. And there are moments that I thought about going back and like,
Yeah.
I guess I'm okay. I'm okay at the end of the day.
For me, yeah, I think that I started going to therapy to work through some things, and I've stayed with it because, well, A, there's still things to work through, but B, like my personal approach to it is I think of therapy more as like a personal trainer than as a doctor. I think of it more as like preventative and continuous than to fix it, rather than reparative. Which, you know, and there's different strokes for everyone, but for me, the chance to, and even like I've been with my therapist for a long time. I'm a big fan of her. I'm a big fan of therapy. And some weeks it is kind of just talking. Some weeks it's just venting. It's just complaining about things that happen all week. I'm not looking for a solution. I'm not even looking for much of a response. I just don't have anyone else that will sit quietly and let me pay them to just word vomit at them for 45 minutes. And then sometimes it's like the week, you know, it's like, her kind of insight is more reminding me of the things that I know and that I get lazy about not doing or not thinking about, or, you know, like I get busy, or I feel busy and I get out of my routines that I know help me feel grounded. And she's just like, well, I'll come in and I'll have complaints. And she's like, well, are you doing these things that we know work for you? And I say, all right, no, I'm not doing any of those. And she says, well, probably that then. That's probably part of the problem. And so, you know, like that's, for me, it's like that. It's kind of just a touch point, kind of a grounding point on a weekly basis. But yeah, if I mean, you know, sporadically, whatever. Like, even if you do think of it as reparative, great. I agree with you that there should not be a stigma to wanting to talk to someone. I think it's weird that we have created that stigma.
Yeah, and I mean, I came out of a situation like my dad was so dead set against it, and really could have used it. And without getting into it, my sister was a very difficult child. She's a very difficult adult now. They did not really know how to deal with her at all, and they just felt like they could gut through it all. And they, you know, I was not their failure. She was their failure, and so
Yeah.
it's just reality. It's like there's no upside to turning off that avenue of getting help and figuring out how to, you know, how to improve the quality of your life by improving the quality of your reactions to your life, I guess.
Yeah, I fully, like, if you, I think of it as I mean, there are some men too who have a weird pain in their side, but are not going to go see a doctor because it'll just work itself out, you know. So same kind of like thing. Like, why don't you go get that looked at, dummy? That's it's bothering you. You should get it looked at. It's same kind of thing with your brain, you know. That's how I feel about it.
Um, so you have a podcast. You have a podcast with your best friend.
I do, yeah, yeah. My best friend Tom, the No Homo podcast with Jonathan and Tom.
He is a gay man and you're a straight man.
Yes. Hence the title. We're being tongue in cheek. We're not being aggressively insulting.
My reaction to No Homo, not pre being exposed to your podcast, but my reaction to that phrase has always been kind of like no all homo, because that's
yeah.
Because like, when guys are saying it, they very often
Well, I heard a comedian. I'm stealing some. I'm not stealing it because I just don't know what his name was. I don't know who the comedian was, but there was a comedian who was saying he was from the Midwest and he was living in California now, and he had a friend from the Midwest come out to see him, and his friend like was hanging out with a bunch of this guy's new friends out in California, and the friend said, "Hey guys, no homo," and someone stopped him and said, we don't say that," and the comedian's point was, you don't interrupt a straight man who just said no homo is about to say the sweetest thing he's ever said, and he's just scared to say it without that. He's scared to seem weak and soft. But whatever he says next is going to be beautiful. He just can't say it without saying that.
right. It's like I don't know exactly what the word is, but just sort of like setting it aside from anything that could be misconstrued as
and again that's like back to the kind of like fear-based problems with someone else painting their nails or with whatever. It's like the idea that like if I say something genuine or I say something sweet or I say something complimentary, that someone else might think I'm homosexual and that would be such a bad thing is such a convoluted, it's such a weird place to be scared, and it's such a I feel genuinely like sad for people who feel that scared in that kind of environment. You cannot you cannot feel safe being vulnerable. That feels like a really tough place to be.
Mm-hmm. A thing about the fitness world that I come from is that it is entirely normal for guys to comment on other guys' physiques. It's like and it's sort of the catchphrase right now is like, you're not really working out for women, you're working out for other guys.
Yeah.
Notices the most, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you're trying to gain, respect and currency and whatever. Having said that, I looked at your IMDb a little bit and to try to refamiliarize myself with some of the things that I may have seen you in. And you're in an episode of a show that's probably like one of the most brilliantly constructed shows of all time. And it sucks that it isn't still running, and that's High Maintenance.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is one of the most brilliantly constructed shows of all time. Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I was like, and actually it's probably the second episode that I saw, I was like, oh, wait, this is just an anthology with really one character that is string through the whole thing. You're pretty undressed in that episode. Not as much as the other guy.
Yeah.
Got to hang dong in that. So was there like a coin flip about who was going to hang dong in that, or?
I mean, I think that objectively he might have the better dong to put on screen. So, mine makes a quick appearance, but it's literally, no small parts. But that's funny. That what a great setup for that too, because I agree with everything you said. My wife and I found that show. Actually, Tom introduced me to that show when it was just a web series. It was just online, and Ben Sinclair and Katya Litchfield were New York. Katya was a casting director. Katya was in casting, and kind of like the web series, a lot of it was this anthology because they knew all of these brilliant actors in New York that weren't getting steady work just because that's the business, because they weren't, the jobs weren't fitting, but they had all these brilliant performers that they knew, and they just kind of started giving them a chance to work on these characters, and like really, and these characters from the web series were just incredible. And yeah, it's like this one guy, this pot dealer, who he's the through line, but it's really just everyone that he meets, right? And so it's like the web series, and then I was so excited to see it get picked up for a first season on HBO, and really thought that like it did what I was so happy to see is like, you know, you got a brilliant idea, you've got brilliant talent, you get some money, you might sell out, you might be able to make what you want, or you might feel like you're supposed to meet some studio standard or something. And I thought those guys really stuck to their guns. I'm not sure they got any pushback at all, but they chose to stick with what they wanted, what they did best, and it showed. And the first season on HBO was just, I loved every moment of it. And then I got a chance to audition and ended up getting booked in the season 2 premiere. And yeah, it was like I had a writer that came with the offer that listed in graphic detail a bunch of scenarios that I may or may not be asked to film in simulated sexual kind of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to my wife, I was like, look, let's read this. This is what it says. I kind of feel like they're just trying to cover their bases here, like depending on like, just so like if something comes up on the day, I can't say we didn't discuss this, you know? And also I feel like we trust them because we love the show so much. I feel like this episode is going to be an important episode of TV because of what they're doing with it. And so I like, you know, and I out of respect for, honestly, to my wife, are you comfortable if I shoot a simulated male female threesome in a hotel room for a couple of days? And she was like, yeah, I don't care, whatever, sure. So you know, we did, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun, and then I really do feel proud to have been a part of that story. I thought it was such a cool version of telling a story. It was kind of like, it was, you know, it's season 2 episode 1. It's called the Globo, and it's just like a world event happens and it's never mentioned. You don't know what it is, but you know that it's important. And then you just kind of meet people throughout the day in New York because of, again, the anthology style of this. You're meeting people who, like, frankly, everyone you meet that day has a reason to not be paying attention to the main story. They either like learn about it in real time, you know, or like weren't paying attention to it at all or whatever. And like, I thought that was such a cool way to tell the story, to like show something that is clearly important, that their world building is so good. They build this, they make it very clear that this is very important on a national, international, some kind of big time scale. And then also zoom in so close to see like people are still living their lives and going to have to figure out how to deal with this, but there's still, life still goes on. Life still happens. And there's like, it's called Globo, which is, oh man, I'm really going to get this wrong right now. Spanish for ball maybe, or balloon or sphere, or
balloon, I think.
Balloon. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, so there's this like great moment near the end where it's just like a subway train, like a subway car in New York late at night with a balloon bouncing around, you know, and like it's this somber, very heavy, dark day, but also, you know, there's like a little kid playing with a balloon, and taking myself out of it, even like wept at that episode. I thought it was such good storytelling on their part. And I mean, on a if I can for a second, like it was silly. The threesome was like, it was kind of shock value silly. It was like a, you know, in your face kind of thing. But if you were to go back and pay attention to it, you realize that it's a male, female, however you want to say it, 2 dudes and a woman, in a threesome. And it is not at all in the vein of like the pornography you would see with that kind of thing. Like it is actually like female centric. It's about the 2 of us like wanting to pay attention to her, you know, and so it's little stuff like that, but it's not like some kind of grotesque, you know, gratuitous kind of bang out threesome. It's like, and there's some shock value. There's definitely like some scenarios created that are meant to be kind of like surprising shock value, but it's still built around the idea of like, she's in charge the whole time. She is running that scene. She's running that whole scenario. And so even in that kind of like sexuality, that shock factor kind of way, it was done incredibly intentionally and incredibly like delicately and smartly. And I just love that about the way that they made that whole show.
So I actually have a question that might be a shock value thing related to that. So there's a point at which your character is talking on the phone, and I think it's to his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other guy takes over the phone and takes over the conversation. Are they supposed to be brothers?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. I was not 100% clear on that.
Yeah. That's the kind of that's the twist to our scene there is, yeah. And she doesn't know that. That's the kind of like the point is like she learns that in that time too. So I think at the end, I think at the very end, like the credit scene is her like scrubbing herself hard in the shower because she's
Absolutely.
like dealing with the fact that she just had an all night threesome with two brothers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're totally cool with it. They're like they took it exactly in stride. They weren't worried about it at all. Like literally talking on the phone to mom and then just say like, "Hey, mom wants to talk to you," and that's like not missing a beat. And she's just like, "What?"
So I have to say you were quite muscular in that in that scene. Um,
Thanks. I used to enjoy. I mean, I still like working out, but I CrossFitted for a long time and was I liked working out. I mean, that's one of the things I appreciate. That's one of the reasons that I like checking out what you got going on too. Is I appreciate lifting heavy and I appreciate. I don't have the chance to have as much. Like my physique isn't maybe what I had time to make it, or the motivation or focus or whatever to make it. Before my life, but I do think of it. I like it's something that I love. It's a way to get stuff. It's a way to deal with stuff. It's a way to keep active, and I love working out. It's always a fun place to put focus.
I heard you say on your podcast that you that you've been boxing again,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to thank you for it not being jujitsu. Not that I have anything against jujitsu. It's like become a little bit, or maybe a lot of a cliche.
Yeah, it definitely has. And look, I'm not going to act like I didn't look for a BJJ gym around that I could have gotten into some more of it, but it wasn't accessible, so I just stuck with boxing. And I agree with you though. There's a real like the kind of like optimized world has also taken a real liking to jiu-jitsu, which they should and could. I mean, an incredible sport, incredible art, but yeah, it's definitely on a trend wave right now for sure.
Yeah, we here in Sacramento we had or have had Uriah Faber, UFC
Yeah, yeah,
focus.
yeah.
I knew the building that our gym is in now was another gym years ago, and a lot of those people came in for conditioning work with a friend of ours, and so got to meet a lot of those guys and hang out a little bit or whatever. We had Uriah on this show several years
Cool.
ago, like
That's cool.
4 or 5 years ago. I don't know if he would pick me out of a crowd now, but I do, I do know him, sort of. So, in something of a conclusion, there's like the world is very crazy right now. It's divisive in a way that I have a difficult time understanding, and there's a component to it that has to do with entertainment. My wife and I went to see. I don't know if you know who Samin Nosrat is. Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so she and Rishi Sherway, who does the Song Exploder podcast. He was on West Wing Weekly for a long time, and they started a podcast during COVID, and they did. It was very limited run. It was only supposed to be like 4 episodes, and now they've done like 20 something episodes over like 4 or 5 years. Just as time allows, they come on and do a podcast about cooking. This is called Home Cooking, and she is releasing or just released a new book, a many years later follow up to Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. And they did an event in San Francisco over the weekend that my wife and I went to. Theater was full. It was like sold out, ton of people. And I'm sitting there wondering, like, what is it about this that I enjoy? And like, I mean, I'm not a cook, but I do cook, but I'm not like a cook. This is not my obsession. I don't think about all this stuff all the time. So what am I enjoying about this? Well, they're both very warm. They don't use divisive language about anything. They're very focused on making people feel good about what they're talking about. She's like awesome at constructing content because he put together this, the way the show flowed, and it was funny and it was informative and it was just perfect. And then I asked myself, well, like a content creator was killed last year, and my engagement with that content was pretty minimal outside of a few things, and I know I didn't enjoy it, but some people obviously do. And I don't know what's different about people who enjoy like one type of entertainment. You can't take. I don't think we can take entertainment out of politics in 2025, and we haven't been able to for a long time. And our elections seem to be won on often on the candidate's presentation and the way that they connect to an audience. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's hard to not feel sometimes like the divisiveness also, like once you see it happening, because I'm kind of with you, like it makes me feel kind of crazy sometimes. I think that I think that there are some bigger kind of more universal things at play. I think that it is anger. So my therapist always says, and has got it drilled into my head, that anger is a secondary emotion. Anger is always a reaction to another feeling. Often it's sadness or fear or whatever else is happening, but anger is a protective secondary emotion. But that takes work to see. It takes the time, it takes the willingness, it takes the effort to notice that that's true, and then to dissect it beyond that even. And I think that what ends up happening is not because people are dumb or lazy, but just the easier it takes less work, and so it is by definition easier to let the anger lead than to figure out why the anger is there and to do self-reflection because of that anger. So anger is an easily weaponized feeling. It's an easily cohesive, bringing people together. It's an easy thing to get together on. It's hating the same thing is a thing that can really bond people. And so I think that kind of to scale, and I think that some of these content creators who have big platforms, some of that is because of the anger that they are able to gin up and that they are able to generate, instead of looking at any of it and say, why are we scared of these things? Why are we, should we look into this further? And should we be paying attention to the fact that this content creator is just lying, is just using non-facts all the time to make their points? Should we be looking into that, or should we just recognize that it makes us feel good to be angry at the same thing, and so we're just going to stay angry at it and then let that anger keep going and frothing and grow wider? And I just think that because even on a more progressive, more understanding-ish side of things, it's still, even for me as a creator, it is I am 9 times out of 10. Part of this is human nature. Part of this is the algorithm itself wanting to build things. I think that it's become pretty clear that negative energy fuels more views, keeps people locked in more, so it sells more ad space. So it's like it's more profitable to keep people angry. So part of it's human nature. Part of it is being exponentially gassed up by the algorithms and by computers. But my reels even do better when there is a call out of someone, or there's a finger point at someone, or there's something kind of sassy to it. There's some kind of like chest puffing of some kind, even if it's from a progressive perspective, if it is like kind of picking a fight. In fact, literally inviting Nick Fuentes to a fight is probably my biggest reel ever. That one went nuts. I was painting my nails and inviting Nick Fuentes to meet me for a charity boxing match. And that one went big time because people, anger is easy to connect on, and anger is easy to, it's easier to feel angry than to figure out where that anger is coming from. And I think that there are plenty of creators at the content creation level and at the actual political leadership level that recognize that, and instead of trying to motivate people to move past that, would rather weaponize it and monetize it and stay right there at the anger point. And I without any moral statement one way or the other, when you do that, you're going to end up with a lot of anger, and angry people are going to do things out of anger, and you end up with violent situations and angry situations that can't be undone.
Yeah, that you can't control. Yeah, because I don't find that those appeals work on me for either side, to be honest. Like, if I get angry, it gets over with pretty quickly because I start thinking about the logic behind it and like what. But let me ask you a lifting related question that ties back to this. If you were going to like hit a big squat or a big bench or whatever, or a deadlift, are you the type of person who would have to hype up for that? Or will you just walk in and go?
That's a good question. I am. It depends. I guess if I look back through my history, and if I did it right now, I would not be lifting too heavy. But if I was trying to max out on something, I feel like my Olympic lifts, I kind of jazz up for. I would get in a, I would pump the blood up. I would get things moving because I want to step up to the bar and not think at all about what comes next, and I want to have everything pumping and being able to move and drop under this weight. But if I'm squatting, I don't. I mean, I have to focus in. You know, if I'm dealing with the fear of what if I get stuck under here, what if this actually goes poorly, you know, like that, then I don't get hyped. I don't want to be at all out of control. I want to be locked in, and you know, like music, I'm all over the place. Sometimes I want loud stuff that's gonna make me go, and then like sometimes I like working out in silence. Sometimes I like working out with no music at all and just like being really chill about it. I kind of feel like I can tap into any and all of those things, but if I was going to deadlift, I was going to squat, if I was going to bench, and I was trying to like max out a PR, I would say pretty tightly focused and not amp up big time or stomp or scream or hit myself or whatever, you know? And I, you know, like do what you got to do to get yourself there. I'm not, no judgment one way or another, but, I definitely, and it's funny, as I'm saying that out loud now, to be honest, as I make my long answer longer, back when I did more CrossFit and I did more Olympic lifts, all of those PRs were for an audience, not on, you know, at the games or whatever, but just at the gym. Like there's people around watching, and I'm going to hit a new clean and jerk PR, and that environment gears me up. So then I'm like almost subconsciously putting on a show for everyone because that helps me get there, you know. But now I'm in the gym by myself trying to max out a squat, and that's just going to stay focused and locked in and not amped up for it.
I, in 2006-ish, started, actually late 2005 or early 2006, started shooting powerlifting in the gym, you know, like, and it was kind of a team environment of, even though it's an individual sport or whatever. And so that's, I mean, other than the first podcast I did, that's kind of what if somebody knows me, that's what they know me for. And I always felt like every night that it was always on night, or sometimes afternoons, sometimes mornings, whenever every session was like an episode. It was an episode for me because I was cutting it together.
Yeah.
You know, and it was voiced over and whatever, but it was also an episode for them. It was a performance among their peers. So it's just exactly what you're saying. And some people approached it differently than others. Some people really needed to be hyped up. They needed to get slapped or whatever, you know, and they had to hit a lot of ammonia, you know, just like salts, all that stuff. And I just seldom was that guy. And like, I didn't care what the music was. And like the first powerlifting meet that I did, the guy was kind of coaching me, like stuck a ammonia cap under my nose before I went out for my deadlift. It's like, I couldn't even see where the freaking bar was, let alone paying any attention to the crowd or anything. It's like, how am I going to get this off the floor when I can't see straight? Just kind of, I don't know. This is not how my mind works, how my nervous system works. But I get it for other people. It's fine. It's just that I just am not the guy that kind of thing works for, I guess. I don't know.
That's funny.
But speaking of enjoying content, I enjoy what you and Tom do together on the podcast. It's most of the time I don't think that the sexuality component has anything to do with it at all, other than him, you know, crushing on you after 20 years. And after seeing your butt in that episode, like I get it. I kind of get it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Full homo. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed this like more than I can actually tell you.
Well, thanks, man. It was really fun. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So where can people find you on the...
You can find me and my solo act at jgregg_Jonathan on Instagram and also on TikTok, but I'm also not any good at that. So it's like there, it exists, but Instagram is where I pay attention because it's what I understand. And then No Homo Pod is our pod page with Jonathan. It's the No Homo Podcast with Jonathan and Tom on YouTube and all of your favorite podcast platforms. And on Instagram, it's No Homo Pod, I think. Should probably look that up before I came on, but I think that's right.
I can correct that in the show notes. I can't like AI your into your. Actually, somebody. Well, okay, so 5+ years ago, my podcast and business partner and I were approached by this company to have vocal clones made of us to do ad reads, so that you could just be programmatically inserted.
Yeah.
But it was going to cost us like 10 grand a piece, and now people are doing it at home, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then another content creator, somebody I know that has lost, like, I don't know, he lost 200 pounds or something like that, and he's kept it off for several years. But he was showing a clip where they had changed his voice so that it was speaking Spanish, and they had actually done the lips as well.
Wow.
And somebody just brought this to his attention. So it's like matched his mouth. It's like, we are living in the weirdest timeline.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a crazy time for sure. That's nuts.
All right, I am at the Jim McD on all the social media. This show is 50% facts, where percent is a word and 50 is just numbers. 50% facts is a Spreaker Prime podcast in association with iHeartMedia on the Obscure Celebrity Network. And I'll talk to you next week. Thanks again, Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.